Flourishing Fully podcast. Dr. Sally here. I'm so excited. We've got Mary Ayers today with us. She is in the human development field for over 27 years as a therapist, a coach, a workshop leader, speaker, author. She's amazing. Her professional achievements include a 5-year run as coach with Tony Robbins. She has her own radio show, Tap Into Action, and she is featured on the Tappers Insiders Club and globally the Tapping World Summit. She's been using EFT since 1997. That's almost 20 years. So I'm really excited to have Mary on to teach us, talk to us about tapping, particularly for pain. Mary, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Sally.
Tell me, Mary, how did you get interested in EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique?
Well, you mentioned that my profession for the past 27 years has been as a licensed therapist. And although what I used was a very progressive model of therapy, it was a solution focus, which was a great, nice, moving forward type of approach, I was very much aware that people would have insights. They would come to therapy, they would have great insights, and yet when something happened, they could get a phone call from somebody, an email, somebody could say something, and they would do something I call getting emotionally hijacked. And we all know, just even using those words, I know people are going, yeah, I know that feeling. It feels like all of a sudden you just respond, your whole body goes into a kind of a fight or flight response. And even though you know better, even though on the other side of it, you can even say, gosh, why did I respond that way? Because I know this happened and I know that happened. I was realizing that, we needed something else. There was something missing. It wasn't just about knowing. There was a body response that we weren't addressing. And myself included. Here I was in the field, even for myself, I would have these emotional hijacks, So it was very fortuitous that when I was in the middle of my PhD program, I met a woman who invited me to a training, and this was in 97, invited me to a training for TFT, or Thought Field Therapy. And I was introduced to this strange-looking thing where people were tapping on themselves. And, I had no idea what the heck was going on, and I wasn't really even sure how to use it. But I did see the value of it, especially for trauma. And being that I live in Colorado, one of the things that happens here, and I'm sure it happens other places where there's snow, is that once fall comes around and winter starts to happen, people start getting very anxious about driving in the snow. And they would come and some people would have slid, some people had accidents. Sometimes it's just, the fear is overwhelming that they feel restricted in their driving. Anyhow, I started using this tapping with them and started noticing really big results. But I still wasn't completely sold on it until about 2006. I was part of the response team here for a shooting we had in Colorado, and I saw a lot of people being traumatized, and it made me move towards wanting to learn more about how I might be able to help them with this tapping thing. And that's what I actually at that time discovered EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques, and which really simplified things, and it made it so easy for people to learn. And I've been using it ever since. And now, I use it beyond just for, like, we're going to be talking about pain, anxiety. It's fabulous for anxiety. But on top of it, I've used it a great deal for expansion work, being able to move out into the world, whether it be growing your business or doing things that are expanding our comfort zone. So I find it very user-friendly in a lot of different areas of our life.
How does it work?
The mechanics of it? Are you meaning what it does in the body when we're tapping?
How about both?
I have the advantage. My husband is an acupuncturist, and so I've been able to, because what they say about the tapping is they call it like a psychological acupuncture, or acupuncture without needles. Now, here's why they say that, is because we're really utilizing the same system in the body that the acupuncture field uses, meaning the meridian. So if people will bear with me a little bit, and Sally, being with your background, you can always help me out here, is most people are familiar. We're familiar with the vein and artery system in the body, right? To carry blood.
Mm-hmm, for blood.
Exactly. And we all understand the nervous system. And so in Chinese medicine, what they did is they mapped out what would be the equivalent of the body's electrical system. And it is referred to as the meridian system. And it is a vast network that goes all through the body. And it's far too much. I mean, I didn't go to school for acupuncture, so I could hold it from the idea of it's this network of pathways through the body for our electrical system. And what happens is that we have areas where we can get overactive or underactive within that system. And by tapping on it, or by acupressure, or by the usage of needles, what they found was that it stimulates the whole system, and it helps to either bring energy to an area that may be lacking, that might be a little bit too sedate, congested. You can bring energy to it, or you can help to disperse energy to help it move. So in other words, what we want to do is keep this energy of life moving through the body, and anytime that's disrupted, then we can have disease, we can have pain. And so we do that by tapping on certain areas of the body, and they are very specific areas of the body, because what we have found through research is that they actually do know that there are these points on the body have a higher electrical activity at these points as opposed to just any place on your body. So we can really target certain areas on the body that are easier for us to get, have access to, as opposed to needing needles for that. And by stimulating them, we're helping the body to move energy, to open up blocks, and it's fascinating. When we do that, it calms down areas and amygdala. I'm going to get that word out.
Amygdala, yeah. The amygdala is a particular area of the brain associated with emotions and fears, things like that.
Yes, the fight or flight.
Fight or flight.
It's the part that, as I was speaking earlier, it's the part that when we're emotionally hijacked, that's the part that lights up and gets very active.
Exactly.
And so they can actually see that tapping can help that to be quieted, to deactivate it.
Great. It's a very powerful technique, and for the listeners, it's relatively easy because you can do it on your own. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as a science unit, just teaching it's very easy. What I hope to do today is help people be able to, I'd like to be able, we talked about this, being able to have people have it at their fingertips so that they can play with it and practice it. And of course, there's so many other resources out there for people to help them bring it an art to it. It's like we say is that it's easy to learn. To be able to really use it well takes a little bit of practice, being willing to get through that awkward stage of, am I doing it right? Maybe doing a little bit of research to make sure, because there are such great resources out there for people. But I do encourage that because it's just such an easy thing to do, and there are no side effects. I mean, how wonderful of all the things that are out there to be able to have something with no side effect.
No negative side effects.
True, thank you.
Because I like to think of it as, when let's say we're releasing the blockage for emotional pathways that are connected to pain, you're also releasing those pathways for, positive life experiences.
Yeah, that's the side effect.
That's the good side effect.
Yeah, you might smile more, feel more comfortable.
Right, and that's important for people to know. I mean, that's how powerful a technique it is.
I agree.
So we're going to look at chronic pain, and the reason it works for chronic pain is because it's associated with emotions. We're tackling the emotions that we have regarding it.
We know, I mean, I'm sure your listeners are well aware that we have already established there is a mind-body connection.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we're beyond having to prove that. We just know it. And so when we're in pain, think about this. When we're in pain, there is a response to it. You may think, well, this is pain. And that is true, but you're also having an emotional reaction at the time. It can be as simple as fear. Because when we're in pain, sometimes that's what we're feeling. I mean, it can really run the gamut of different feelings we may have. But we're recognizing that there is a emotion connected with the experience. And what happens is that when we are angry, when we're afraid, when we're confused, our tendency is to tighten up in the body. Right? That's a natural response for us to get a little tense, a little tight, because you hold yourself. You breathe differently. And what happens is that there is that part of us that is registering how we're holding our body, and it starts to say, I recognize this posture, and I equate it with danger. And so it starts to trigger that amygdala, that limbic part of our brain, that stuff that starts to get into the fight or flight, and we've got higher levels of cortisol. We are tense. We're pulling the muscles in the body on the skeleton on the body. We're pulling because we're in this fight or flight tense state, which increases pain. It's a interesting cycle, right? The more tense you are and angry you are, the more your body tenses up, and then it amplifies the pain. And now the cycle continues. It's like a dog chasing its tail. Because now it's like, oh my gosh, the pain is even worse, and I'm tightening up even more, and I'm not breathing, and the body's going, uh-oh, now we're really being chased by this tiger, and on it goes. So we want to break the cycle, is what we want to do, is we want to break the cycle, and we're going to be talking about it more from that connection with the emotional aspect of feeling that pain, because if we can unhook the emotional aspect of it and our body can start to relax, we're looking for the body to be able to stop pulling and antagonizing in opposite directions, and then help to relieve some of that pain and to just bring a little bit of relief to it.
So the emotions that might come up for people would be guilt, shame. What comes up?
Oh, that's a really good question. And one of the things I like to do, I'm just going to kind of, if it's okay with you, we might as well just kind of start to lead people in, because this is a great investigative type of question.
Okay.
And you can just kind of sit back and ask yourself, well, what kind of emotion am I feeling? And what I would anticipate is some people may not even be aware that they're experiencing an emotion, because they're saying, I'm feeling pain. But if you just take a second, and what I encourage people to do is just put your hand in an area on your body or over it, or you can imagine it too if you can't reach it, and ask yourself, if there was an emotion in this part of my body, what would it be? So that's just an exploratory question, and maybe let's say, you brought up several of them. Guilt, I brought up fear, anger, confusion, right? Any of these. Sally, you want to play on your side, if you want to kind of think of an area or feeling that you experienced when you at some time in your life, what came up? Any area of your body you got a little pain, we can always just, work that way and see what emotion might have been sitting in there.
Well, I think...
And you don't have to give us too much information.
No, listen, from time to time, my knee bothers me. I do a lot of stairs, and I think about my aunt who had polio, and I guess it's an identification with her. I think maybe it's, because she really had a lot of trouble walking. Maybe it's, fear that I could, have developed along that pathway.
I think that fear, especially when we're in pain, I think fear is a big one that's going to show up for a lot of people, that they can really relate to that. I think that anger comes too. Sometimes we get so tired of being afraid. We just get sick and tired of being afraid. So we kind of want to rail, and that's okay. You know, it's just part of the process. And fear, if somebody's feeling fear, that's a good one to use. The process is the same. What I want to let anybody know, it doesn't matter what the emotion is, the process will be the same. However, we always want to be aware and focus on the emotion you're feeling. That's why we want to identify it. We call it being in the file. You want to be in it, be aware of it, what that feeling is for you. I think about it as like if there's a room with all the lights on, you want to be in the room where all the lights are. We're not trying to distract ourselves, like, be in a different room without the lights. We want to be in the same room where all the lights are on. And if what the emotional lights that are lighting up is where we want to be. So if it's fear this time, then that's where all the room is with all the lights. If it's anger, that's where the lights are. You're identifying it for you because you want to be where it is. You want to be in that file. Okay?
Right.
And the other thing, so the next thing we would want to do is that, okay, on a scale of 0 to 10, how intense is that feeling? What number would you give it? 10 being high. So when you think about the knee, you think about the fear associated with it, you're just going to give it a number. And it's really just for your own reference so that you can see what's happening in there. So, just give it a number. And Sally, what number? Just throw out a number.
7, 6,
Okay.
6, 7.
All right. So what I'm going to say is that, when we think about it, it's interesting because you probably are going about your day, right? You're talking to me, yet I've got this sitting in my knee, and it's at this 6 or 7, which is a pretty good, level of emotion. It's not a 2, but you're not focused on it, you're getting other things done. But we're going to bring a little bit of relief to it so that it's easier to go about it from a general perspective of happiness in your day. It's going to feel nicer at a 4, right? Things are going to go a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. So one of the things I'd like to do with people is really take them through the points we're going to be tapping on before we start the tapping. I find that if we talk about them now and then I lead you through, it's easier for people to be focused on the feeling. It doesn't disrupt that. And like I said, I really want to keep them in that file. So let's kind of introduce this process of EFT. So what we start out with is that we start by tapping on something called the karate chop point. And the karate chop point, most of us can appreciate that, we use the side of our hand. If we were like kids, we were doing that karate chop thing, right? There's that side of the hand, the fleshy part,
yes,
below the baby finger on the side.
Yes.
Now, I like to use the whole area. So I'm right-handed, and I'm going to use my right hand to tap the left hand. And I'm going to use all 4 fingers on my right hand. My palm, my hand is open. And I'm just going to tap the entire side of the hand using that whole karate chop point. All right, so you're just tapping on it. When I say that, people are kind of like, well, what is it? I go, it's like when you're drumming your fingers on a desk. It's about the same amount of pressure. You're not banging on it. It's not so light you can barely feel it. So it's just like if you were drumming your fingers on a desk.
Right.
So we start here, and then we make a statement. And we make the statement 3 times. It's got a part of it where you're talking about the problem. It says, even though I have, and we would insert whatever we're focused on, and like fear. And then we say an affirmation, which is, I'm willing to love and accept myself anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a 2-part statement. We're talking about the problem, which is the fear or the anger or whatever the feeling. And then we're giving an affirmation that I can accept myself even though I have this fear. And we're going to do that 3 times. I'll lead people through this. I just want to identify our points right now. After that, we're going to take 2 fingers. I like to use 2 fingers because I know it will cover the point of my right hand. And we're going to go to the eyebrow point. So the eyebrow point is right where the hair on the eyebrow begins, between the nose and the eyebrow. So you can feel the bony ridge right under the eyebrow. It's not on the forehead. It's right at the beginning of the eyebrow. And if you use 2 fingers to tap there, you're going to get it. Okay?
Perfect.
And again, you're just tapping lightly. You're not banging yourself over the head. Sometimes I can hear people banging so hard, I go, well, now your body's responding to the fact that it's being beaten up. So, all right. And the pace is about tap, 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 tap. It's not overly fast. It's a little bit relaxed. So that's the eyebrow point. If you follow that bony ridge in your eye right around to the side, it's the side of the eye, okay, you're going to tap there as well. And again, you can feel the bony ridge of the orbit of the eye, just following it around. Right? Again, you're going to tap there. That's side of the eye. And then follow it down again to the high cheekbone. That's called the under eye point.
Got it.
So now we're going to go under the nose. Fortunately, we only have one of those, and it's pretty easy. All right? And then we do the chin point. Now, the chin point's kind of funny because it's really not on the chin, but we're going to go right to that crease below the lip above the chin. Okay? And you would tap right in there. Again, 2 fingers. Now, the collarbone has got a little bit more work with it. It's simple. We're going to put our fingers in that little notch in our neck. All right? We're going to come down about 1 inch. And to the right, about 1 inch. It's going to be right below the collarbone. There's just kind of a little void right there.
Yeah, a little notch.
Exactly. And the thing is you're going to tap. You can use your whole fist here, gently tap. You will get it. So I just tell people, just use your whole hand there and tap. That's called the collarbone point. The next one is the under the arm. Now, this is easy. The easiest way to say it is that, where the bra strap would be for a woman. Men, you can visualize what this would be, is where that would be. It's about 4 inches from the armpit, right in the middle. And you're going to be able to tap right there. You can do it with one hand, or for me, I can reach my left hand under. Some people, it's a contortion that maybe they can't get into. So you can reach your other hand, my left hand, and tap my right point there under the arm.
Right. Correct.
And then again, you can tap the top of the head. You use all your fingers. You just dance around the top of the head. Okay? Now, Sally, I do want to say something, because for some people, I get this question a lot. They say, what if I can't reach that point? Or what if it's too painful for me to move that way to reach up to the top of my head or under my arm? It is okay if you have to exclude a point. That's okay. You will still get the benefits. We prefer to go through all the points, but if you've got one that you just can't reach, you just can't lift your arm up, to get all the points on the top of your head because of some pain or some restriction, that's okay.
In the past, I've actually visualized it.
Absolutely. So, I love, and I do tell people, one of the things to do is do this in front of a mirror. When you're first learning, do it in front of a mirror so that you are really getting these muscle memories, this sensation of what it looks like and feels like to tap at these different points, because you can use the visualization. And then having that really kind of muscle memory, we can see ourselves, you can really feel it. You can really start to feel, I can actually feel that tapping at my eyebrow, side of the eye, and whatnot. So it's a great way to be able to use it for sleep, while resting. I'm glad you brought that up.
Right.
Okay. So let's go back. Now that we know where the points are, so let's go and actually take people through an experience, shall we?
Yes.
All right. So let's go back to where your pain is. You find that spot in your body. Maybe it's a tightness. Maybe it's a pain. And again, you want to find out, what emotion am I holding here? Okay. And Sally will use your fear.
Okay.
And everybody use whatever it is. If it's anger for you, for guilt for you, frustration for you, that's okay. We just want you to identify it because that will be the file you're in. And we're going to start at the karate chop. And Sally, I'm going to have you be my echo.
Okay.
So we're going to tap there, just as we talked about, all 4 fingers. You're going to tap lightly. And I'm going to say, even though I have this fear in my knee,
Even though I have this fear in my knee,
I'm going to accept myself right now anyhow.
I'm going to accept myself right now anyhow.
Even though I have this fear,
Even though I have this fear,
and I know of what,
and I know of what,
and I'm holding it in my knee,
and I'm holding it in my knee,
I've decided to accept myself anyhow.
I decided to accept myself anyhow.
Even though I'm holding this fear in my knee,
Even though I'm holding this fear in my knee,
I'm willing to accept myself now.
I am willing to accept myself now.
Okay, and I've kept it very simple so that people don't, a lot of times they feel, I don't know the words. I want to keep it simple, connecting that fear and where I'm holding it.
Right. And everybody, we're talking about knee, but just again, it can be for different, it could be your bladder, it could be your gut, you could be, each person has their own center.
Exactly. And so on the privately, they'd say that. Here they can say knee. They'll actually be working on it, but that's what it would sound. They would make that change on their own. Absolutely. So we're going to take those 2 fingers. We're going to go to the eyebrow. And again, we want to talk about it's really a focus. This pain in my knee.
This pain in my knee.
Side of the eye, the fear in my knee.
The fear in my knee.
Under the eye. I'm holding so much fear in my knee.
I'm holding so much fear in my knee.
Under the nose, and I didn't know that.
And I didn't know that.
On the chin. I have all this fear in my knee.
I have all this fear in my knee.
On the collarbone. I have this pain in my knee.
I have this pain in my knee.
Underneath the arm, and I believe it's fear.
I believe it's fear.
The top of the head. I have this fear that I'm holding in my knee.
I have this fear that I'm holding in my knee.
And then take a breath. So this is called a round of tapping. It's just going through from the karate chop, saying that 3 times, and then going through the 8 body points one time, focused on the feeling, the emotion, and the area of the body. Okay, then you just take a breath, and you want to go back in. There is a little testing, so you go back to that. So Sally, go back to your knee and feel the level. You can put your hand on it again. You can say, what's there? What's the level? 0 to 10. What would I give it?
I give it a 3.5.
Wow. See, that's a big difference.
A big difference.
And so just ease. Just ease and feeling more comfort. Ease all over the body. So all day long, your body doesn't have to feel that tension somewhere else in its body while you're distracting yourself doing work, right? It's you being able to help your body move through the rest of its day with a lot more softness.
Right. Amazing.
I do want to say something real quick, Sally, because some people may not have had as big a change as you did.
Yes, yes, I'm very responsive because I do this regularly. And actually, that's something I want to ask you because I do it, and tell me if it works. Maybe I do it because I feel very well now. I do it from a positive point of view, and I say, I love you. I look in the mirror and I start tapping, and I love you deeply and completely, and I go through all the 8 points. And that, now at my stage of where I'm at, is how I use tapping. Is that effective?
I love it in that way. However, and I'm sure you can relate to this, when we are in that when it's acute, the pain is acute, emotionally we're hijacked.
Yes.
Okay? That's too far of a reach.
Okay.
So, when you were at a 7, okay, you're kind of borderline. I kind of consider, 4, 5s, and 6. that kind of in-between zone. But when we're at an 8, those 9s, it's big. It's big for us. That's too far of a reach to start trying to have a positive affirmation. It's like there's a little voice in us that goes, that's not happening at all. So.
Yes, no, I actually I have worked with the EFT, so that's where I'm at now, but I was wondering whether that was still effective.
It is. And I'm not saying that, that's what I'm saying is that you may even have an acute moment and then we're there. It's great. What I like is that you can tap for the bigness of it, this big pain or this big fear or this big anger. And as it comes down, that is where what you're talking about, is when we get to these lower levels, it's being able to say, man, I can go through these same points and say, I so appreciate the way my body is learning, to let go and relax, the way it knows how to heal itself. I'm helping it do that. That's the beautiful affirmations that we can bring in, right? Well, and just go through those points, just like you were saying.
Wow, I love the technique. I think it's great for acute pain. Is there anything that we've missed, Mary?
I do want to comment for somebody who, if they may have said, wow, it didn't move much. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you were an 8 and maybe you say, well, it's about a 7.5, what I want to tell you is this, that is movement.
Yes.
That's big movement. And to do another round, it's not magic. It is faster than anything you can imagine. So spending 5-10 minutes to just keep lowering it bit by bit, going around and around. Another round would be, and I'll do this very quick, you don't even have to follow me, just so that people would see it, is I'd start at the karate chop and go, even though I still have this pain, even though I still have it, I still have the fear. They would do that, then go through the points. I still have fear, I still have pain. Take a breath, go through those 8 points. And let's say it came down to a 7, from an 8. Guess what? You're still doing it.
Yes.
Do another round. So what? I mean, the bigger scheme of things, even if it takes 5 rounds to get it into a 6, that is miraculous in my book.
Yes, a lot of people have had their pains, chronically. So peeling away the layers of the onion is just, is an awesome step in the right direction.
Yeah. And so if it takes 5-10 minutes worth of tapping, you're not doing anything wrong. It is working because it's decreasing. It's decreasing incrementally. And so that's what we want. Essentially, you're going to retrain your body. You're going to recondition it. And Sally, you were such a great example of, like you said, the consistent use of it over time means that your body starts to respond faster.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's when confidence really starts to build.
Great. Well, everybody, Mary has given us an amazing interview. Her website is tapintoaction.com. Is that right, Mary?
Correct, yes.
And she has recorded programs. She's got webinars and summits going on. So please, by all means, check Mary out. She's amazing. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you so much for having me, Sally.